Aloha, namaskar, and hello. Welcome to Climate Change Beyond Outrage, where we go beyond outrage to focus on climate solutions to problems facing people, nations, and the world. I am your host, Anu Hittel, broadcasting live from ThinkTech Studios in beautiful downtown Honolulu. There are many ways for you to get talking with us. You can join our conversation by tweeting us at ThinkTechHI. And now you can call us at 415-871-2474. Once we are done with the show, don't feel bereft. Join our conversation on Facebook. We have a page of the same name, Climate Change Beyond Outrage. So this is a show about climate change and how people are dealing with it, how they adapt to it, how they learn to be resilient and continue to thrive. For Malia Nobrega Oliveira, who is from Hanapepe Valley, Kauai, climate change is real as it can get. It affects her way of life, her family's work, and how they interact with their world. These impacts have spurred her to work on climate change, biodiversity, and traditional knowledge, or Ike. She works from the local to the international level, and that work revolves around helping people to gain a deeper connection to the land. Malia is a native Hawaiian educator, kumuhula, salt maker, filmmaker, cultural practitioner, community organizer, and advocate of Indigenous rights. She is currently at the University of Hawaii and is the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Community Engagement at the School of Hawaiian Knowledge, and also the Director of a Climate Change Alert Program, LAMA. She joins us today via Skype from her home on Kauai. Malia, welcome. What effects of climate change are you seeing where you live and work?
Mahalo nui e anu. Just before maybe I get into some of the things I'm seeing here right on the ground and here on my aina, I wanted to just say aloha to everyone. Also say mahalo for allowing me this time to share my story and to just share my aloha.
Thank you.
Like you had already said, that I'm here from Hanapepe Valley, Kauai, and my ohana is ohana, and we're just excited to be able to share again our story. Here in Hanapepe, Kauai, in all of Hawaii that continues the practice of making pa'akai. And pa'akai translates to salt. And many people, whether they're from Hawaii or from all over, have always heard about the Hanapepe or the Kauai salt. Many people know it also as the red salt. Because this special additive is added into our pa'akai or our salt, and that is called the alai.
Okay.
I have a few photos that I wanted to share with everyone, and it'll kind of give us an idea as tweeted on the island of Kauai.
So we'll get the photos up. And one thing I wanted to say about pa'akai is that it's really interesting to me how it translates, because the kai, of course, is the ocean, right? Or the sea, and then you're saying pa'a is sort of something that's stuck or still. So it's almost like a still ocean.
Yeah, split form.
Yeah. So we're looking at a picture from a sort of an aerial view of sort of, I think, red earth around, and then these white must be the salt ponds, yeah?
Great. So the picture is definitely an aerial photo of Pu'olo Point. So this area is called Pu'olo, and it's a point that's the ahupua'a of Hanapepe. And as you can see on one side of the photo, we're right next to the ocean. Very famous public beach that it's known to everyone as Salt Pond.
Is this a private land?
Part of the area.
Is this land belonging to your family?
No, so the land currently is under the management of Department of Land and Natural Resources, as well as Department of Transportation. So it's under the state of Hawaii. But the salt makers have organized Hui, or an organization, a community organization, who make up of the families that continue this practice. And since 1964, my grandfather helped to organize an organization called Hui Hanapepe. And it's literally meaning the salt makers of Hanapepe. And
so
this became a voice so that we could build this relationship with the state.
Wow, so it's been going, the cooperative has been going for a while, for 52 years.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at a picture of a couple, and are those your grandparents?
Yeah, so this next picture is one of my favorites. This is my mom's parents, and their names are Helen and Joseph Chu. And this is the line where this tradition is handed. It's on my grandfather's side. And like I mentioned, his last name is Chu. So it's actually a Chinese name. So my grandchu is part Chinese and part Hawaiian. And his family was born and raised here in Hanapepe. And so this is where mom and dad, well, not mom and dad, sorry, mom. And then dad moved here and then raised all of the children. But what I love about this photo is, well, just because it's my beautiful grandparents,
right,
and just wanting to honor them. But also you can see this behind them. And in Hawaiian, we call it a pu'upa'akai. Today, you will not see these kinds of pu'upa'akai or these salt there at our salt making area because just of a whole bunch of reasons. One being the weather being so unstable that we leave our salt out there as much. And then the other reason is that I think a lot of people have really found the value of it, and unfortunately, and they would take the salt and bring it home on their own. And then when we turn up, there's no salt there. And when I was younger, we were able to still do it. But now, 40 some years later, you don't get to see these kinds of pictures anymore. Harvesting the salt, you will not see these pu'upa'akai anymore.
And by the pu'upa'akai, you mean the mound of salt that's behind them?
Yeah. Yeah, that's you won't see it there. The families will now take it home to their own family land and have the salt mounds there.
I see.
Because you keep it in these mounds for an extra few weeks to let more of the precipitation come out of it.
I see. And so you said also because of the weather, and you know that of course made my ears prick up, and I'm thinking, do you suppose there's anything going on with climate change, with larger climate issues that you're facing? Yeah,
you know, it's definitely the weather and the instability is definitely having an impact on this cultural practice. And that's what really has opened up my eyes to looking at climate change from Native Hawaiians' perspective. And also, I mean, learning more about what's really happening in our weather systems today and what is making these changes happen so frequently.
And so what are you seeing? What affects the salt making? So you're obviously the salt is being made on those salt ponds and the water evaporates, I imagine, and then you get these pu'upa'akai, and then
let's go to the next.
To the salt making, yes.
Yeah, maybe we can go to, I have a few photos.
Right, so we have a sort of a collage of photos here of people doing different things in the salt ponds.
Right, so that collage just kind of highlights the hard work that goes into preparing the whole process, from actually going down on your hands and knees and using a smooth river rock to prepare the area. You're building it up with these clay balls and building up the walls. And I think another one of my favorite pictures is there on the bottom where you can see, this is actually my dad and my brother preparing it so that we can harvest the salt and prepare it to bring it home and put it into these pu'upa'akai.
So they're actually sort of, it seems like they've got almost rakes, like rake-like things, and they're kind of mounding it up, and then they'll take it home.
Yes.
Okay, and so the weather has changed this. How?
Okay, so that's my next picture.
Okay.
'Cause I wanted to kind of bring you through that whole process. Process really happens usually during the summertime.
Okay, so we have the next picture, which has a picture of the ocean, and there's a lot of water on the land.
Exactly. So this is one in my lifetime. This is the first time I've seen this happen with my own eyes, and I've witnessed this where moon, these big waves came and crashed over the ocean side, the beach there, came over the sand and totally flooded our area. So just imagine that after going in and preparing the area and getting on our hands and knees, days after days of preparing it, now the ocean water is flooding in like a river.
Right, and so this is
and
completely
whole
flooded.
area.
Mhm. Right, okay.
Totally flooded.
Okay.
And in my lifetime, and I've said for 40 years now, 4 years in a row, we haven't been able to make salt at all. So zero harvest.
Wow, that's, yeah, so
Because
for
of it.
4 years you've had no harvest, and I mean, what does that, what does that do to everybody?
I mean, this is only happened, this has been in this last 4 years. And,
Right.
Salt plays a very big role in the Hawaiian culture. I mean, if you've participated in blessings at a home, of a new house, of a new baby, of a boat, maybe even being at the blessing of the Hawaiian Studies building a number of years ago at UH Manoa, many of these blessings, the mixing of salt from this place with fresh water and then using it to bless the area. We also use the salt for mixes, and we use it, just in so many different parts of our culture, that now we're seeing that have this salt. What do we do? Where do we go? How do we adapt to that? And are there things that we can be doing now?
Right.
Maybe to adapt the practice, but also, some people have said, well, just move the practice to another location. And that's not possible because this place, the land and how the land is made there makes this salt really special. Because
Right. So we're looking at really a cultural practice that has been interrupted by weather patterns. And, what is your Hui doing to adapt to this, to be resilient to this, and so on? And I think we'll if you will hold that thought and that question, we'll come back and address that, and especially in the way that you have worked with the community to spread this knowledge and sort of bring people together to take action in the face of climate events like this. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. And this is Climate Change Beyond Outrage with Malia Nobrega.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, exploring the world we live in, recognizing the changes around us, and looking into the future of our lives together in these islands. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.
Aloha, my name is Justine Espiritu, and I am the co-host of Hawaii Farmers Series. This is my co-host, Matthew Johnson, and we are live with you every Thursday at 4 p.m. at thinktechhawaii.com. And our show focuses on Hawaii's local food community. We feature not only the farmers that are producing our food, but we also feature the supporters and other folks involved in the community that are trying to promote local agriculture.
Welcome back to Climate Change Beyond Outrage, and I am here with, and Malia Nobrega is joining us via Skype. She's a cultural practitioner and many, many more things, and she has been explaining to us about salt making and how the weather has affected, how climate events have affected salt making. So looking really from her direct experience out into the more regional context and her work at the University of Hawaii in Manoa. Malia, tell us a little bit about what your work has been with the university and how you've helped to bring some of these climate issues to the forefront.
Sure. Thanks again. It's been really exciting to be able to sit under and work the Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge, and we're under the direction of Mim, and she has been very supportive of carrying out this kind of work that's related to our aina, to our land, and to preserving our cultural practices and to carry them out and to really be able to engage with our community and share the knowledge of our people. And I think I have a quick graphic that I wanted to share.
Yes, it's up on the screen.
That just shares mission statement of the School of Hawaiian Knowledge.
Mm-hmm. It's up on the screen.
Thanks. And I just wanted to put that out there because kind of support of a school that is really looking at the knowledge of the Indigenous people of Hawaii, so the Kanaka Maoli of Hawaii, and supporting this kind of work. I really wanted to highlight that and say that was key for our work here at the university.
That's terrific, yeah.
And
it says, great and numerous is the knowledge of the Hawaiians. Yes.
Yes. And so to also further that, Dean has been supportive of my program, which I now call LAMA. And LAMA stands for Loli Aniau, Makaʻala, Climate Change, Climate Alert. And I think that's my next graphic that kind of shares the mission of that program.
Yes, we have that up on the screen.
Read it all, but I just wanted to, great. So I wanted to share that, as I was finding the name of this, carry out this work, you can see in my logo there, it's really based on a traditional torch that was made out of. And the idea is that as we go out and share the knowledge of our people and of our communities, that we are really lighting one community at a time and one person and one family at a time. And so that's how I view my work, climate change and around traditional knowledge and just carrying out this work in our community. And then an example of is a community workshop that we held in 2014. And this workshop was called Kilohon. And that's, I think, my next graphic that I have. It shows just these beautiful faces, these beautiful Hawaiian people that were able to gather together and share about the work, the exciting work that they're doing at the community level. Where from a perspective of traditional knowledge. And so maybe if we can move on to the next graphic. Yes. That's titled Traditional Knowledge. Mm-hmm. And this is a kupuna, an elder from Maui. His name is Anakala Les, and he shared with us about how important it is for him as a kupuna to be sharing his ike, his knowledge, not only his family, but also with the larger community. And I love this quote of how he reminded us that our ancestors were rememberers, we were participators, and we recall spirit images from our universe. And
Wonderful.
I think
yeah.
having that foundation, is just really exciting. And we love having Anakala less in our circles.
Right, and so this was all at the workshop in 2014. Tell us a little more about how you reach out into the community and some of the things that have come out of it.
Sure. So, these workshops, or we also call them listening sessions, because these sessions we to share with one another this exciting work that we're doing, whether it was around food or even energy. And this became a form for launching additional workshops, which led us to a larger conference that we called LAMA. And LAMA is really looking at the lunar calendar from a Native Hawaiian perspective. And, we started again with a smaller group that helped us plan for this bigger conference. And we were so excited that almost 300 people came to attend our LAMA conference to really look at how do we use the methodologies and becoming observers in our community, observers of weather, observers of changes, and just of our lifestyles here in Hawaii. And so people shared from all different perspectives, was from aquaculture or agriculture, and we had a number of different panels.
Did you find that there were any patterns in what people were talking about in the last, 5, 10, 15 years? Have they observed anything on the ground?
Yeah, a lot of them, it varied from place to place. Some from our fishermen and those that took care of our fisheries, a lot of our kupuna shared with us increase of certain types of fishes during certain times of the year. And, this having a number of different reasons, as to why this is happening. And so I think as community, we're able to, as we strengthen, to become kilo. And that's something that we're encouraging people to become. And kilo, we as being an observer, and like Uncle Anakala said, a participator, an active person in our community. Whether taking notes on, this is a La'au moon, and this is in the Malama, or the traditional month of, so bringing traditional knowledge, but then also taking notes and keeping that data here in our community and knowing what is happening from one day to another. And so, yes, we've been, we hear about the decrease in certain types of fishes, about the increase of rain on certain islands. We've also heard about the decrease, less amounts of rain, so having some drought periods as well. And so it varies. And from the salt, if I go back to making salt, in the beginning of this year, January and February, it was very unlikely for us to see that the whole place dried up. And so a lot of families were getting excited, like, this will be a good year. It's really hot, and we're not getting rain, so let's get started. We're excited about it. And so in the beginning of March, we opened up the season for salt making. March, we had a really big rain come. The place flooded. And so the few families that did go in and put in a weeks work in the whole area. Well, now you wait, and we're hoping that it's now over a month later and flooded. Maybe it's gone down a little, but I don't see it drying up until maybe May, June, maybe till July if we're lucky.
So when you find that things like this happen, and you're working at the regional level, you're working with other practitioners, they're seeing decreasing patterns or different patterns in fish abundance or water and so on. What is the general, what do you come up with as solutions? I mean, it's hard to obviously just say that in 1 minute, but just what kinds of things and what sorts of approaches, and how do you work with that? How do you go forward? Because of course, this is something that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, when I've talked to a lot of friends who are doing climate change work, they usually see it as a very disappointing, and they get upset about things, because it's depressing in some ways. But when I found working with a lot of others and practitioners, not that the climate change is inspiring us, but I think what it's motivating us to ensure that we are passing on our knowledge from one generation to another. And we've highly prioritize that work, because we know, and I've heard this so many times at international and even regional and national meetings, that a lot of surround within traditional knowledge. And I think for our work around LAMA and looking at the lunar calendar, that's those tools that comes from a traditional perspective that provides a solution for our people and for our communities. And it's not just for, really for all of our communities and for our greater state to find these kinds of solutions. I think we get really excited being committed to making sure that we can make this a better place for the next generation.
Yes, I can see
and I think motivates us to keep moving forward.
Yes, and I can see the passion in your face when you talk about that, because climate change is, if you look at it as a whole, a very intractable problem. It's like, where do you even start, dealing with it? But obviously, this is something that communities have had to deal with for a long time, actually. This is not something new in this area, and it's becoming more urgent to hui together, to get together and figure out some solutions, and really to cooperate and to work together. So, I was just wondering, do you folks then take some of that knowledge, the data that you're gathering from a conference like the LAMA conference, do you take that and put it into some kind of a more non-traditional format, like a database or something that you can then share?
Well, when we started doing this work, we talked about creating an app. An app that we could use on our iPads or on our phones and collect the data. We kind of slowed ourselves down, and we said to one another, you know what? Before we do that, we really need to be the app. We ourselves need to have that knowledge here, not only in our heads, but in our hearts and in our na'au, in our gut, so that we live it and we can share it. And when we get to that point, then I think we'll be ready to create that app. And I think we're slowly getting where we can use an app where children and communities can go out and, recognize that what is happening on different moons and on different times, and then collect that data, because we're starting to now look into other indigenous communities that are step. And one quick example I'll share is in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, there's Maori people who who look after their guardian, which is the puhi or the eel. Notice that more and more dams have been made in their community, and it's having a direct impact on their eel. So by collecting the data and knowing how much stream water is coming down, or if it's not because of a new dam, they are able to use that data to report back to government and to community and to say, hey, we need this amount of water coming down our stream so that our guardian, our eel, can continue to thrive in its environment and in its ecosystem.
So it's really
I really like that kind of it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful mix of the traditional knowledge and what you need to do, and using the modern technology to get there. And so, you know, I would really like to hear more about that, but we'll have to do that off screen at some point. But in our next segment, and we have to take a break very shortly, in our next segment, we're going to talk about how you have translated this work into international level work. And so when we come back from the break, we'll talk about that. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen, host of Likeable Science on Think Tech Hawaii. Come join us every Friday at 2 p.m. when I interview interesting scientists about what they do, why they do it, and why we should all care about it. It's a lot of fun to see. We hear, and you can learn interesting stuff. You'll hear all kinds of fascinating science, and we know you'll have a great time. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Aloha, this is Maria Mera, and I'm here to invite you to my bilingual show, Viva Hawaii on Think Tech Hawaii, every other Monday at 3 p.m. We're here to inform, motivate, and entertain you. Join us. Hola, soy María Mera y estoy aquí para invitaros a mi show bilingüe Viva Hawaii en Think Tech Hawaii cada 2 lunes a las 3 de la tarde. Estamos aquí para informaros, motivaros y entreteneros. Apuntaros.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Welcome back to Climate Change Beyond Outrage. And we are speaking with Malia Nobrega Oliveira, who is a cultural practitioner and a salt maker, and works at the University of Hawaii at the regional level, and then now at the international level as well. So she has been involved with Indigenous people's rights and views and knowledge from all over the world through her 2 experiences with the Convention on Biodiversity, as well as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And for me, this is particularly interesting, of course, because I follow the UNFCCC on climate change, that is, and and of course my work is mostly through looking at nation states and at that level, but Malia's work is just so interesting because it really cuts across the nation states and cuts across those boundaries and really looks at Indigenous peoples and how climate is affecting them and how they are affecting the conversation. So with that, we'll just open back up to Malia, and just wanted to get you front and center here, telling us about your experiences and how you've taken some of this really very local knowledge to regional, and then now to the global level that even transcends countries.
Thank you again. I even move into that, I really want to say and give honor to one of my mentors who introduced me to this, and her name is Mililani Trask. Mililani Trask is a very well-known Native Hawaiian woman who has stood strong for our people, and she's known not only here in Hawaii as a Hawaiian warrior, but she is also known throughout the world, in the Indigenous world especially. And she started to, I guess it was just by chance at first, together in Geneva, Switzerland, of all places. I mean, I've always known of her work, but I really had to travel to Geneva to be able to speak to her and learn from her. And this was at a United Nations meeting. And as she started to learn more about my background and being a salt maker, being a teacher, and she then said, well, okay, tomorrow you will be intervention. And I said, well, what's an intervention? And she said, well, it's like writing a testimony, you know, when you're back home in Hawaii and we go before the testimony, you base it on your experience. And then she said, I will help you write the policy that we will propose from an Indigenous perspective. And after that first human rights meeting, she then introduced me to the Convention on Biological Diversity, because that would be a good place for me to work with other Indigenous peoples and to learn, because of the importance of our biodiversity with our cultural practices, whether it be for hula, you know, I mean, we need to have our biodiversity surrounding us, you know, to make our lei, we need it to just be a part of our life. And so participating at these meetings, like the Convention on Biological Diversity or the climate change meeting that, you know, we mentioned earlier, it allows us to work with governments directly and really heads of state, and to create this policy that is at an international level that eventually down to a local level. So it really gives us a head start on creating policy and global frameworks that can help us one day. And one day it'll eventually trickle down to us at the county of Kauai or the state of Hawaii. But I think this gives us, you know, to have a voice there is really important. And I found that at these United Nations meetings, we gather as in peoples and we organize ourselves around the 7 regions of the world. And for Hawaii, we've always connected ourselves with the Pacific because of our likeliness to the Pacific Islands, versus some have questioned why we don't connect with North America. We've always shared that our lifestyles, our island ways are more similar to those of the Pacific. And so that has been one way that I've participated in these meetings.
That's wonderful. And so what is it like to meet people from other parts of the world where they're, you know, going even beyond the Pacific, right? I mean, we had a collage of pictures up from, looked like people from the polar regions, and looks like from the Sami people, and I mean, it looks like there are people from all over, from Peru perhaps, or South America. Yeah. So I mean, you're all working together, and how does it feel to be there with the Indigenous peoples of different parts of the world?
It's amazing. It's amazing to know how similar we are, yet how diverse we are. You know, I mean, even if, you know, even if, you know, a friend of mine, Nairobi, Kenya, and I live here in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai, there's so many things as communities, as mothers, that we can share with one another and we can learn from one another. And I've been able to create so many long-lasting friendships because of this coming together at these international meetings. And I enjoy our time together because of that learning that we can share with one another, and not only share about things culturally, but also share with one another, like, hey, in Norway, there's this kind of a policy being made about genetically modified, and this might be helpful for you at a community level in the United States, which is looking at it from a whole different perspective. And so I like that kind of internal learning and sharing that we're able to have at so many different levels.
Right, and so this must be really exciting because you're not just sharing those lifestyle kinds of things, but learning lessons from different parts of the world. So looking at what are the Arctic peoples, what are their, how are they dealing with some of the climate change impacts? How are they dealing with their national governments, for example, as well, right? I mean, that's, and how do they secure Indigenous people's rights for their particular groups? So I know that we had a conference here at the East-West Center, and it was about the Arctic regions, and one of the circumpolar, the Inuit leaders from the Circumpolar Conference, I think, was here. And it was amazing. She was, talking about all the different regions that have the same Inuit ways and the same Inuit peoples, but just every country has different policies, from Russia to, which are very sort of, in some ways, very backward policies for their indigenous peoples, to Norway and the Scandinavian countries, where they've got, I think they've got their own parliament even in the Scandinavian countries. So I think those kinds of things going back and forth are really interesting. So will you be involved with the IUCN's World Conservation Congress that will be held here in Honolulu?
Yeah, actually, we are definitely to be a part of that, and we submitted for having what is called a conservation campus. And we're partnering with the gender office under the IUCN. We're also partnering with a few other representatives that are coming, and we'll all be able to share about this ancestral knowledge that we want to continue to pass from one generation to another, in order for us to survive here and to conserve our nature and to diversity and really just thrive as people. And we're really looking forward to that. Our particular presentation is called Mauliau Honua, Readapting Ancestral Knowledge for Survival.
Wonderful. And so we'll be looking, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say also, we'll be looking for some of your sessions. So we look forward to seeing that. We have only a few minutes left, and I wanted to ask you if you had a message for our viewers.
Yeah, mahalo. I think what comes to mind right now as we continue our conversation is a Hawaiian saying that says, "Elei poina ole kekeiki na kamakua." And this translates to say that a child is a fading and never forgetful lay for the parent. And I think why that comes to mind for me as a parent is that I'm committed to doing this work and to carrying on this traditional knowledge and to sharing it, not only my children or my nieces and nephews, but really with the community, and trying to find ways to bring us together to as a community and to move forward as a nation, as a lahui. And yeah, so mahalo again.
Well, thank you very much. And I wanted to actually just say, wanted to close with a little wisdom from Mahatma Gandhi, who is obviously he's from my part of the world, from India, and so he was salt plays a very significant role in modern Indian history, and he actually used the making of salt as part of a very strategic sort of symbol of civil disobedience when the British were the colonizing power in India. And back in 1930, he organized a march which said that we will defy the salt laws, where it was prohibited to make salt, and only the government could make salt, and they levied a tax on salt. And so he said, we will march to the sea and we will make salt on our own, and we will defy these laws and let them stop us. And of course they didn't, they had a big old bust up. But of course, they did eventually leave India. And so this was all because of the Salt March, and I just wanted to throw that in there. It was also something that Mahatma Gandhi said, which I think is very applicable to the work you're doing, and that is, a nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people. And that is exactly what I see you doing, is building that culture in the hearts and in the soul of your people and of the nation. So thank you so much for being with us, Malia. I look forward to talking with you again. This is Climate Change Beyond Outrage, and we are here on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock with Anu Hitol. Aloha, namaskar, and goodbye.